Regular people are taking their knowledge and content, packaging it up in an online course, and they're making a living doing it. But not everyone is successful with online courses. There's a right way and there's a wrong way, and I'm here to help course creators actually succeed with online courses. Hi, I'm Jacques Hopkins, and this is the Online Course Show. And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. I'm Jacques Hopkins, and here with me as well is our co-host. How's it going, Dr. K?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Man, just edging closer and closer to back to normal. Kids start back in school in about a week. And as you know, and a lot of listeners know, I am kind of between that road trip that we took and then the kids starting. So able to get a lot of work done, a lot of good stuff, but it's still kids knocking on the door, screaming, won't go down for naps, this and that. As you know, I work out of kind of the back corner of my house in my home office studio here. So getting a little back to normal, but not quite all the way. How about you, man? What's going on?
Oh, not too much. Again, I'm a chiropractor. My practice has been super busy. The thing that's course related that I'm most excited about, way back in episode number 2, you and Nate Dodson were talking about all the reasons that you could create an online course. And you talked about, hey, a good reason to create an online course would be a lead magnet for an in-person business. And so I recorded all these different videos on just strategies to improve life in general. And I thought I need to throw those together in an online course. And so I call the course Fix the Pain, Level Up Your Life. And it's basically just life hacking according to David Croce. But I put a lot of videos out on Facebook, and it's gotten to the point where when my wife and I are out for walks, people will stop me and be like, hey, aren't you that chiropractor? And so I do have some loyal fans in my community. It's basically got 6 lessons on just how to decrease worry and depression. Let's see here. Just understand how health problems work. I've got one about how to lose weight. And I have an article in there that I think is just kind of a masterpiece. But all these strategies, how to sleep better, I'm excited to put it out and have people start to watch it. And so if anybody listening to the podcast wants to watch the content for free, you can just go to compasschiro.com/course and just sign up for it. And I've got all kinds of tips on having a better life and hopefully some good sense of humor in there as well.
Very cool. Compass Chiro, CHIRO.com/course. And that's a free course. And your main motivation is to get it out there in your local community. And that can be a way for people to get to know you a little bit better, give them some value, and hopefully a small percentage of those people that take the small course then eventually get into your clinic there.
Exactly. And I recently started using your recommended service deadline funnel. And so there's this special offer that's exclusively while they're in the 7 days that the course is going on. And so the idea is that there's this really valuable offer, but if they want it, they have to buy it online in this 6.5 day, 7 day period.
Very cool. Yeah, all kinds of different applications for courses, obviously. And yeah, Deadline Funnel, that's cool that you're using it here as well. The guest that I had on, we'll hear from in a little bit, is also a big fan of Deadline Funnel, as am I, and lots of people that have been on this podcast, as you know. So let's talk about this podcast a little bit. I like to always be leveling up, taking things to the next level. And you'll notice if you listen to a lot of podcasts, not necessarily every one. This is episode 144. Some people have listened to all of them. I think you're one of those people. And you'll notice it hasn't been the same. There's been progressions. In fact, there was a name change somewhere. Originally, it was the Online Course Guy podcast, and then I changed it to the Online Course Show. And there's been different intros and different formats and segments, and I'm just trying to make it as good as possible. And the same with my courses and my websites and everything. I'm always looking to level it up. Well, I had an idea recently for a little bit of a change to the podcast. You ready to hear about it?
Let's hear it.
I don't know about you, man, but I subscribe to a lot of podcasts, and I think you're the same. And I don't know about you. You don't have kids, but you obviously have you do a lot. You've got your wife, and you have tons of hobbies. So I don't know about you, but I don't have time to listen to all the episodes of all the podcasts that I'm subscribed to. I don't want to unsubscribe from a lot of them in case a really compelling and relevant to me episode comes out. I subscribe to Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn, Choose FI, Joe Rogan. I mean, Joe Rogan's episodes are over 3 hours long and they come out like 4 or 5 times a week. I mean, who has time for all that? Ben Greenfield, some local sports ones, Tim Ferriss. And so I was thinking to myself, man, it would be great if some of these podcasts that I like but don't have time to listen to the full episodes would just kind of cut out clips of, 5 to 15 minute clips of topics that are discussed throughout the podcast, and then release those on a different feed or on their own feed. That way, if I don't have time to listen to an hour and a half episode, maybe there's this 12-minute and 37-second clip that the title is very relevant to me in what I'm trying to do. And I just thought that would be really cool. So I was like, well, maybe I could do that. Maybe other people would appreciate that. So maybe I can do that with this podcast. And so what I want to do, I'm not going to commit to this going forward, but I want to try it for this episode, the episode we're doing right now with me and you, and then we're bringing on Stephanie Taylor, which, by the way, I mean, you've heard the conversation by now. It was a fantastic conversation with Stephanie Taylor, very, very inspirational. But I'm going to take 6 clips from this episode, and one of them could even be just me and you talking, and release that to the same podcast feed. So on Tuesday, this episode will come out and it'll be, an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And then every other day until the next Tuesday, I'll release a small clip from this episode so that if somebody can't consume this whole thing, maybe they'll want to hear a clip or two along the way. So what do you think about that idea?
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, I think, doing the ones from the current episode, because you mentioned this to me last week, and I was thinking, I mean, you could go back to some of the early episodes and pull out some of the most fun portions from, you and Nate talking, or some of the earlier interviews. That's another thing that we could look at down the road. But yeah, I mean, I don't subscribe to a lot of podcasts. At this point, I really listen to this Snacks Daily podcast every day. It's 15 minutes. I love it. It makes me smile. It makes me laugh, but it is really valuable content for me. And so I think that this idea that you have of the snippets will provide a lot of value, and people will enjoy just hearing the most high value portions of the podcast.
Cool. Well, just like anything else, the best thing we can do is try it. And so I'm going to put it out there this week for 7 days, this full episode and then 6 more clips. And I'd love to hear back from listeners if you like the format or not. I mean, you can always ignore the clips in your feed if it's not your style. But I just think that this is something that I would appreciate in the podcast I listen to. So I'm going to put it out there and see how it goes. And I'd welcome feedback from those listening on the other side. And so speaking of up-leveling, taking things to the next level, I've got this program called Next Level Courses, and I've tinkered and tweaked that as well over the years, really. And I just love helping course creators. I love helping people get started and make their first sale. But I really love helping people that have courses already and are struggling with some kind of way, and just to kind of take their course to the next level. And that's exactly how I met our guest today, Stephanie Taylor, because I got an application from her a little over a year ago to join my Next Level Courses program. She had a course already. She had launched. She was still very green. It was very recent. And she applied to be a part of that program, which back then was more of a one-on-one mentorship. And it took a lot of my time doing it that way, and I could only work with a very, very small amount of people doing it that way. So I've since relaunched Next Level Courses as a group coaching program with its own membership portal with advanced trainings for people that already have courses, and it's going really, really well. It's a lot of fun being in that group. I know you're in that group, and so Stephanie joined that a year and a half ago. Now she's part of the newer version as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but I definitely want to extend an invitation to those listening to this that are inspired by Stephanie's story, maybe feel like they need a coach of some sort. They need some more advanced training on courses. That's not just beginners getting started. And so you can check that out at theonlinecourseguy.com. and click on Next Level Courses to get more information, or watch my evergreen webinar with even more information there. So that's a little context for Next Level Courses and for Stephanie Taylor. I didn't bring her on the podcast just to do a big pitch for Next Level Courses, and the listeners will understand that when we share the full conversation with her, because her story is very, very inspirational. So, man, just we'll do a full recap at the end, but just right off the bat, I mean, what did you think of the conversation with her?
It was fantastic. She's super inspirational, super charismatic, and
Yeah.
just so much fun to listen to.
Lots of energy, lots of drive, and found success pretty quickly with courses, and I don't think it was an accident. So it was a lot of fun catching up with her, and we'll talk about it on the back end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play the full conversation with Stephanie Taylor. Stephanie Taylor, hi, it's good to see you.
Oh my gosh, Jack Hopkins. Hello.
It's good to catch up with you. I hope things have been going pretty well for you. I'm excited to finally get you on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm really good. Do you know what, Jacques? You changed our lives.
Oh, come on. Let's not start this out by lying to people. I really appreciate you saying that so much. I don't know if it's exactly true, but I'm excited to dig into this a little bit, because I know that I had a little bit of impact on your success with courses, but I'm certainly not the only resource, and I don't think I've seen anybody work as hard as you either. So you have way more credit goes to you than me. There's no question about that. So let's just kind of set this up for people listening. rent2rentsuccess.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, as you know, I am not very good with real estate or property management, but is this accurate? You teach people how to rent properties and then kind of re-rent them out for a profit. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And you have a course on that. How's that going for you?
Oh my gosh. I know I've just got to be chilled and normal, but do you know what? When I reflect on it, I just find it's unbelievable. So just to give people a little bit of context, that I had my son when I was 18 on my own, really struggled financially, and then sort of built myself up and got a degree and got what I thought was a decent job. And to now be in a situation where we make more in a month than I used to make in a year, when I thought that I was actually doing not super, super well, but well for me, I was really pleased with where I was. It's just such a, it's just so crazy. And but yeah, we're getting used to it, and I love it.
Now, what kind of job were you in? Property before? What kind of line of work were you in before?
Well, it was a long and winding road. Immediately before, I'd sort of fell on my feet and found a job as a contractor in financial services, and it was sort of a project management style of things, where you're getting paid by the day, a really good rate. And but I had a little hiccup in the fact that my mum got ill, and I had one of those wake up calls moments where I just realized that I was putting my work so important, and that my mum really needed me. And I just wanted to think of how can I be able to be there for my mum. And not only that, it just made me question other things in my life and what is the right path for me. And because at the time I was 45, and I thought, whatever right path there is, you've got to get on it right now, because you're not a spring chicken.
Well, you like to joke that you're old, and you're far from that. We're actually pretty close in age. Now, you're making this transition. A lot of people come to me and they don't even know where to start with the topic. They're good at a lot of things. They have a lot of hobbies, and you weren't directly working. Like, your job wasn't this exact thing. Like, how did you first get into the whole rent to rent thing?
Yeah, that's interesting. I suppose, well, what happened was I thought I've got to do something a bit different. And I started attending all these property events or real estate events. I'll translate for you. I started attending all these events, and I was blown away, Jacques. It's like when you come into the online world for the first time and you see what people are doing. You're like, really?
Funnels and email automation and video and all that.
Yeah, and also the results people are getting. So people are telling me that they're doing all these different things and normal people, and I thought, oh, maybe that's something that I could do. And I went to one particular event in March of 2016, and I was on the front row. And I was listening to these two guys, and they were explaining about the contracts on each property and what their income was on each property and what the relationships were and all of that. And I was just totally blown away. And they explained all their backstory, and I thought, do you know what? I could do this. And I went from, I was quite deluded at the time, and it just went from there, and we did it, and it worked out. And I started telling people about it because I was excited. I'm quite a shy person. And I started doing these videos to say, do you know what? This is not a scam. This is an actual thing. You just do this, this and that, and then you do this, that, and the next thing. And so I was showing them around the properties that we were doing up and explaining things to people just on my own Facebook personal page. And it just all went from there.
Now, I need you to be completely honest on this podcast. You just said that you were shy. Like, why would you lie like that? That is not a word that I would use to describe you.
Oh, gosh. I used to cry when people spoke to me.
Oh, my goodness. And you said that you sat in the front row of this event back in March of 2016, and that does not surprise me at all.
No, because I was keen.
Right.
I wanted to make sure I could see the screen as well, because sometimes when you go to these smaller events, everyone's head's in the way.
Okay, so you saw this presentation, you started getting into this property world, and you started doing this yourself, right? Like you started renting properties and then re-renting them. I don't know if that's a good term, re-renting, but you started doing that yourself and getting results yourself, correct?
Yeah.
At what point did you decide to start? I mean, you mentioned putting some videos, information on your Facebook page, but when did you really think that? So you had this new business, you weren't working this job anymore. You kind of had this transition to a new business where you're doing the rent-to-rent stuff. When did you decide you were going to package that up into an online course and turn that into a business?
Oh, well, like I've heard many people say on your podcast, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't. I just thought that because we'd only been doing it for a short time, since 2016, it all wasn't supposed to happen so quickly. I thought you start asking for the properties and people say no, and people say no, and people say no. But for us, it happened quickly. And so we started in 2016 with the with getting the properties, and I started doing the videos almost soon after. But I was happy to give information out for free, but I did not feel that I could be charging for the information because we're new doing this. So I didn't want to charge, and I remained that way. Also, I didn't want to be going up and down the country speaking to people, which is what I thought it meant if you were going to be a trainer. And so I decided to just keep giving the free information because it kind of was helping us build our brand as well. We didn't intend to the brand towards the landlords and the letting agents, not for people to buy a course. But what I found was the videos that I put on my HMO Heaven property YouTube channel, the ones that really took off on this tiny channel were the ones that said, this is how to set up your own rent-to-rent business. This is what to do when you're setting up a rent-to-rent business. And some of them had thousands of views and hundreds of comments, and it was a very small channel at the time. It still is a small channel, in fact. I've now hidden those videos because it's not congruent with that channel. So I set up a separate brand called Rent to Rent Success. And I'm taking a long time to tell this story, but in 2018, I think it was really that we seriously decided, or I seriously decided, yes, we can do this. And what happened was people were coming to ask me all the questions, I was pointing them off to various trainers. And then they would come back and they would say things like, but what about the offer email to the landlord? Or what about the letter to so-and-so? Or what about the contract of such and such? And I says, well, did you not go on the course with blah, blah, blah? And they would say, well, yes, but they're not sure about this part. So they've paid blah, 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 all of this money, but yet they're coming to ask me for all the information. So I just thought, do you know what? Actually, we could do something better, because part of the reason is that you need help when you're implementing. And a lot of these courses were 1 or 2 or 3 days, whereas really you need help when you're putting it into practice. So I thought, well, if we had a longer course, initially it was 8 weeks, but since then we've made it 3 months. I think initially it was 6 weeks, the very first one. So we made it 6 weeks with a live call every week, but you get all the information recorded and step by step with all of the documents that you need. And there's a Facebook group attached to it. And our obligation in there is Monday to Friday. So that was the package. And so to answer your question, after we've been doing the actual business for, was it a year and a half, 2006? Yeah, it's a year, because it was 2017, 2018. It was 2.5 years that we'd been doing the business when we set up the course at the end of 2018. And we launched it at the beginning of last year. So January 2019.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So you started this company, HMO Heaven, and that was your actually rent-to-rent. That was your rent-to-rent business.
Yes.
And you were just being very transparent by posting all this stuff on social media about what you were up to. Which,
yes.
you know, by the way, we're obviously friends on Facebook now, and you're doing that about your course and your podcast, which we'll get to and all that now. It sounds like that's just kind of your style. It was whatever you're into, you share that with the world. And that really turned out to be a great thing for you, because you had all these people not just asking about your business, but for themselves, like, wow, look what Stephanie Taylor's doing, and her sister, which we'll talk about in a second. And they were coming to you for questions about how they could do the same. Now, you are based in Wales, correct?
Yeah.
And your market is just Wales. Is that right?
Well, it's just the UK. So
UK.
England, Scotland and Wales.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So you launched your course in January of last year, 2019. And by the way, how did you know how to launch a course?
I had no idea about it. I didn't know how to make a course.
Right.
It's hard to remember back now, because now I know quite a bit, but I didn't know how you translate this whole process from having the idea of a business to setting up all of the aspects of the business, negotiating all of the things to do with the property, putting the tenants and all the rest of it, and the systems and everything. I didn't know how to make that into something that somebody else can just download and use. And that held me up for quite a long while. So that was 2018 when I decided. We had the chance to work with someone else who was helping us to plan out what would be in the course, and also to make it into a course. So I just had a Word document. I went away for a week to a retreat. I was just drinking green juice all week. I thought I can kill 2 birds with one stone, lose a few pounds, and write the course. So I wrote the course and in this week, but it was just a sort of bullet point style sort of outline with a little bit here, talk about this, here, talk about that. So I had the whole thing in a Word document. I did not know how to get from there to having a course. And it was, in actual fact, it was a nightmare. No. But
well, you launched your course and people bought it. You know, it took me months and months and months to get the number of students that you got with your initial launch. So you were on some level successful right from the start. And so, I mean, what do you attribute that initial success, that initial launch success to?
Yeah, I think what it was it was not being a professional, basically. I think is the reason. So I was there, and excuse me, most of the videos would start, hello, Stephanie here. And, you know, people people just liked it that I was not a trainer and that I don't know about training as such. And they liked that they'd seen us from the first house and seen what the transformation was with each house. And they saw the excitement of like me going around each property. And now that I've put this thing together, there was a few people who were excited to give us a try.
You had 24 people pay you for that with that first launch. Where did those people come from? Did you literally just promote it on Facebook like you had done all these other things? Or did you have like an email list and a lead magnet or any of that yet?
Well, at the end of November 2018, I set up, or it was at the end of the year, November, December 2018, I set up a Facebook group called Rent to Rent Success Secrets.
Smart.
And the obviously at this stage, the group was very small. So it's maybe got a few hundred people in, a couple of hundred.
And is it just UK people, or are you letting people all over the world into it? It's just UK people.
Well, people all over the world can come in, but largely it's just UK people who would buy this thing. So it's just UK people who really want to come in. And in fact, it's not called Rent to Rent anywhere else, as far as I know. And so it's just a UK thing. So I had this little Facebook group with a couple of hundred people in. At the same time, I set up a lead magnet, which was, I think it's the guide to getting your first deal, something along those lines. I can't remember the name of it. The 6-step system to get your first deal. I think that's what it's called. So around the same time, we set up that lead magnet, and I had a few random people that signed up for other things. So altogether, there were 600 people, but I don't think some of them were like tenants or landlords or things. So they weren't all for the launch, if you will. So I had a few hundred people there on an emailing list. Excellent.
I think creating a Facebook group is a great first step, or one of your first steps, because it just starts building a little community. That's one thing I wish I would have done much sooner with my piano audience, but I did it pretty early on with my online course community audience. And it's a great way for people to just feel like they're a part of a tribe and they're in this together, and they're all kind of learning from this guide. And in that case, that was you. And I would imagine that not only did you have this lead magnet and then you launched your course in January, but sometime between creating the group and launching the course, you probably offered a lot of value in that group. Is that fair to say?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the picture that's coming to mind, Shark, is the horrendous webinar that I did, and it was in November and December. We had been leading up that we're having this webinar. It wasn't called a webinar. I can't remember what we called it, but we said we were having this big training day. It was something like the 4th of January. And I had gone away again to another green juice retreat. It was absolutely freezing. It was a big old house in the country. Luckily, the Wi-Fi worked, but I didn't realize that I was doing it as a Facebook Live. And this was before everybody knew about Zoom and so on. And when I went live on Facebook, I couldn't get them to show my screen. It wouldn't work. So I had to create a video of me doing the presentation behind the slides. So my idea was to go live on Facebook and then play this video that I'd already created, but creating that video when I was somewhere else. And I had 2 computers, and the one with the slides on that I'm recording, I had to have the whole screen taken up. So all the words were on another computer. And unfortunately, I didn't realize that by turning my head reading, that the sound would just be gone because I wasn't wearing a microphone. So the sound was hideous, but I was not re-recording. It took me hours to get all of that redone. And when I realized what had happened with the sound, so it's a miracle that we got anyone. It's a miracle that we got anyone to join.
You don't strike me as a tech person. Is that fair to say?
Excuse me,
You're
yes.
choking on your water.
Yeah. No.
I don't mean that negatively. We've worked together extensively, but is that I'm going somewhere with this? Is that fair to say? I mean, based on the
Yeah.
story I just heard,
Yeah.
but you've every step along the way you figured it out, and I think that's a lot of that tricks a lot of people up that are getting into this, because people have an expertise in helping people to write short stories, or teaching people to cut hair, like all these random things, but they're not necessarily good at live streaming on Facebook and doing webinars and using Zoom and using ClickFunnels and using Thinkific and all these things. You're not a tech person. How have you managed to get through the tech hiccups?
I just what you said really. I just I I don't know what happened to me, Shark, because I feel like I had the last 20 years where not a lot happened, and then in the last 4 to 5 years, it's like there's a fire in my belly, and I just and I was going to say nothing's going to stop me, but I'm obviously not going to let not knowing how to do something technical hold me back when everybody and its mother knows how to do it apart from me.
Well, when we were working together, I remember every time I would say, okay, Stephanie, I would recommend you do this, and this. And you would just look at me like you would have this look on your face, like, how am I going to do that? Like, I don't know this, like, I don't know this tech. You would do that to me every time. But I knew, like, at that point, I knew you, and I knew you would get it done. And every time you'd come back the next week, and not only would you have it done, but it would exceed my expectations. So it was always funny to see that, but I knew that you would get through it. So to me, the biggest thing is just persistence and believing in yourself. You would get kind of hung up at first, but eventually you would say, okay, I can do this, or we can do this. And you would always get through it. You always would. Do you think that's a fair assessment of you?
um I think it's the power of having a coach. You see, I think that if I was on my own, I wouldn't. I don't think I would feel like I could do it, and I don't think I would know what to do.
Well, accountability and coaching is very important. We'll get into that a little bit. By the way, today is my youngest daughter's third birthday. And I can hear her screaming right now. I don't know if you can hear that. I think that she probably doesn't want to take a nap today because it's her birthday. So my wife is probably tending to her right now. So if you hear some screaming, it's okay. It's okay. It's her birthday. I promise she's had a good day so far. Okay, Stephanie, how did we get connected? Where did you hear about me?
Can I just say happy birthday to your daughter? Should I say happy birthday? Which one is it?
Zoe. Zoe just turned 3. My oldest just turned 5 a few days ago, but today is Zoe, the 3-year-old's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Zoe!
I will tell her you said that. Thank you so much.
So where did we meet? Well, I was driving from Wales to Scotland, which is a long drive. Perhaps not to Americans. It's about 5 hours. It's a very long drive in the UK because it's a small country.
I just drove 6,000 miles all over the United States. That doesn't sound like much.
Yeah, you got a big country there, but that sounded like an awesome trip. But I was on this journey, and I was listening to Pat Flynn's podcast. I listened to both of them, but on this particular occasion, I was binge listening Ask Pat. And when we got to your episode, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then, of course, I went across to the online course, a podcast, and I just listened to them all. It was 5 hours, so I probably didn't get through the whole podcast. There was a few days of binging. I was listening to it all the way there, all the way back, and for quite a few days afterwards.
So you first heard about me on Pat Flynn's podcast, and then you started listening to this very podcast, the online course show. And I guess at the time, you're probably thinking, okay, I've tasted success. I launched this course, but I don't really know where to go next, right? And then you reached out to me, and you actually applied to my high level program for people that already have courses. And at the time, it was very one-on-one, and I've since transitioned it to more group coaching. And that program is called Next Level Courses. And so you applied to that. It was application only. And I actually have your application up right here. If you
Oh
don't mind.
no, you're gonna embarrass me.
No. Do you mind if I read part of it?
Oh dear. Well, am I going to sound like a stalker? Probably.
No, I think it sets up pretty good context to where you were. And this came through on my end on March 6th of 2019, right? So you had launched your course in January, and I think this is a good just provides really good context, and I can leave some things out if you want, but I don't think there's
No,
anything
go
that's
on, go on.
yeah.
Let's hear it.
You told me you're an open book. So it says, tell me about your current business. All right. So this is a year and a half ago. And by the way, we haven't really talked about Nikki much, your sister. And I do want to get into that and your relationship with her. And she's very involved in this business as well. It's not just you. But you start by saying, with my sister, Nikki, I run HMO Heaven, which is the business that you have that you actually doing the thing. That's not your course business. A property refurbishment and management company based in Wales in the UK. Our specialism is transforming house shares from hellish to heavenly. We provide beautiful, affordable homes to young professionals, guaranteed rent, freedom for tenant management, and total peace of mind to landlords and investors. We've been so successful in growing this business in under 3 years that our inbox is filled with people asking for coaching and mentoring. For a long time, we provided free content online and directed inquiries to other trainers. So that's exactly what you've been telling me. Like that's the same thing for paid courses. So you were sending people to others, and it's not unlike me. Like I started Piano in 21 Days back in 2013, and so I started to find success, and people would hear about my story, and they would ask me for advice, and I would give them a little advice here and there, and then I would maybe send them off to some other online course, right? So eventually, like, people ask and ask and ask, and I mean, as entrepreneurs, we gotta make the thing that helps people that they're asking for. So I definitely resonate with that. And then it says, eventually I thought, what if we served our community better and in the way they want? I like that line right there. And then you said, in January this year, we launched our first online course. We hoped for 12 people. We had over 30. We accepted 24 and are just finishing the first course. It's been a fantastic experience. It gives us so much joy to see the results people are getting. Our course is called Rent to Rent Kickstarter. It's for people wanting to escape the 9-to-5 and create their own profitable property business without a huge pot of cash to start. You remember writing all those words?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Next question. How much in monthly revenue and profit are you currently making from your course? You sold your beta course. You remember what you sold your beta course for?
65.
This says 625 pounds.
Yeah. 65.
625. Okay. I thought you said 65. Yeah. So 625. And so you made about 15,000 pounds from this, which I'm sure, I mean, how did that make you feel when you brought in 15,000 pounds like that?
Do you know, I was, the whole thing has been unbelievable. I was delighted. I was more delighted about having that 12 people wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I was really thrilled about.
And then the next question is, how much in monthly revenue and profit do you want to be making from your course? You said the sky's the limit initially, but then you said initially 10,000 pounds per month revenue, which I think is a very, very reasonable. It's great to have goals too. Like, if you would have just said the sky's the limit, okay, that's hard to work with. And some of the people in next level courses right now that I'm working with from a group setting, I'll often ask them, like, hey, you're making $2,000 a month from your course right now. Like, where do you want to get this? And if they tell me just like as high as possible, or if they tell me like $150,000 a month, it's like, look, let's get more realistic. And you can't hit 150,000 until you hit 10,000 a month. And so you had a goal of going to 10,000 pounds per month, which I thought was that really jumped out at me when I was looking at this application at the time. The next question: what goals have you not reached but think you could with Jacques' mentorship program? We're very early on, and I think Jacques can help us get started in the right way and grow faster than on our own.
Yeah.
Why do you want to work with Jacques?
Well.
Sometimes people who've watched me on YouTube write beautiful notes to me as though they love me and know me. I'm often surprised by the intensity. Do you want me to stop or are we good?
Oh, carry on,
I
carry
love
on.
this. I love this. I should have told you ahead of time I was going to do this, but I was really excited about this. I'm often surprised by the intensity of feeling expressed. Now I get it. That's how I feel about Jacques. I like the way he does things and his philosophy ever since I first came across him on Smart Passive Income podcast. I like the way that you serve your community and that you focus on maximizing revenue and profit while being ultra efficient so you can enjoy your life with your family. I just resonate. Oh goodness, I hope this doesn't sound creepy.
It does.
Oh, I could tell it was going to be fun working with you just by reading this application. So almost done here. Next level courses cost $5,800. Can you and your business support this investment? Eek. It's a lot for us. And yes, we can support this investment because we understand how transformational it will be for us personally and for our business as we go further in business and embark in the world of online courses. We're growing and it's incredibly exciting. We'd love to work with you. Back then, and the current group format doesn't cost that much anymore. But when I was working one-on-one with people, like I did with you, or in your case, you and Nikki, I did charge a higher amount for that. Because I really wanted to be paid what I thought I was worth for my time, but I also wanted to come across to people in your situation that it was going to make you that much or more back, right? I think if I would have charged $100, like that wouldn't have even attracted you, and I would assume that the higher price point made you feel like you were actually going to get that and more in return. Did you? Is that kind of what was going through your head when you saw that number?
I remember it being more but I think each stage of business, you break through a little bit and you break through a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was quite an early stage. And so we weren't used to spending that amount. But I suppose the more times that you spend that amount, the less that it seems relatively. And I think that I was so keen to work with you. I was so keen to work with you then. It took me ages to actually press the button after that. Partially that was because but we choose to justify to each other the spend if it's going to be expensive. And because I'm the more one who wants to buy things, which sometimes turn out to be not a good buy, I kind of felt, is it the right thing? Because I need to justify the spend. And but in the end, I just thought, you know what, we can't not do this. So that's why it's worked out to be an incredibly good investment.
Well, I very much appreciate you putting your trust in me. It was just so much fun working together. And when we started working together, you had a course already, obviously, and you had made sales, right? Yeah. So we worked together for essentially 8 weeks. And what was our focus? What was our focus during the 8 weeks? And what did you come out with at the end of it?
Well, our focus was to create an evergreen funnel. But if you remember, because I don't like to do anything simple, I wanted to, first of all, launch again with all the bells and whistles. And then after that launch, it was so much that I decided to do the evergreen funnel as well, also within the 8 weeks. So we actually did 2 pretty big things together.
Yeah, but we were able to reuse some of the stuff from the live launch too. So I helped you kind of redo your webinar, your script for your webinar, right? And you guys went through expert secrets, and we put some secrets together and some stories and recrafted your offer. And so you were able to relaunch with that script, but then also turn that into an evergreen funnel as well. So how did that next launch go? If you could refresh my memory and tell the audience, and then once you turned on the evergreen funnel, what happened?
That was exciting. So the second launch, I'm a bit crazy, so I just thought that because we'd done the first launch and this launch was going to be even better, we had much better stuff, like a proper webinar, as opposed to the sort of car crash that we had previous. And so I thought, oh well, 100 people are going to join this time. I don't know why I thought this, but anyway, 30 people joined the second time, And actually, now reflecting back, I'm really happy with that. But I was a bit disappointed at the time. And then we decided to do the evergreen funnel. And again, I find that quite hard. But maybe it isn't, especially you can outsource a lot of things, but I was trying to do it myself. So we did the evergreen funnel, and the best thing about that was that we switched it on in July, and the first sale was my mum was staying here, and we'd gone over to, I live on a river in Newport, and we'd gone to a restaurant that's on the other side of the river, and it was a lovely day. We'd had a lovely time together. We'd obviously been telling her all about the course, and she was excited for us. And we walked back across the bridge and came back to the house, and I saw that we'd had a sale. And it just was like a magical moment that when you're just out enjoying yourself with your family, that people are buying your course because they've seen, they've got to know you through the videos and the emails and all of these other things, and they bought the course.
So for the first time, you had sold a copy of your course without doing a live launch.
Yes.
And that was an amazing feeling, especially in light of what you were doing at the time, just hanging out with your mother, not really even thinking about it, right? Or knowing you probably were thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. And then did the second evergreen sale come pretty quickly too?
Yeah, it was, honestly, that first month, we put the price up to $997 when in the evergreen, but if they bought it on the webinar, then it was $897.
Mm-hmm.
And that very first month, we were surprised to make £8,000. So £8,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but it was like, wow, at the time. It was.
So does that mean what's an average month for you? The past 6 months, much higher than that?
Yeah, well, there's been a little bit of blips. So after that, we went £10,000. There was quite a few months there was quite a few months where it was always over £10,000, and I've got it here. And then we went up to over £20,000. We had 4 months where it was over £20,000, I think, up until February of this year. And I'll tell you about my aims in a minute, but and then we had a bit of a wobble because it was quite frightening, well, for everybody, when this corona happened. 23rd of March, it happened here in the UK, that we had the heavier lockdown sort of thing. And then in April, March sales were just normal, but April, hardly anything. But part of that reason was because we decided to turn the advertising off. We had some Facebook ads by that stage, and we decided to turn it off. But then we decided to turn it back on. And actually, it's been absolutely fine. And since then, I'm just looking now. So April to...
You're looking for revenue in April 2020, which would be the first full month after the lockdown started.
Yeah, but that's not very good then. Am I looking at the right column? This is one of Nikki's spreadsheets, and it's kind of complicated. So April, it looks like 8,000, which doesn't strike me as correct, and then 20,000 in May and 14,000 in June. So it's been a bit up and down, hasn't it? And then July, 17,000. And I've just started working with a chap who will be managing our Facebook ads, because we've been doing quite well, with Facebook ads. But but he's going to be taking it over. Our spend on Facebook ads is quite small, but it brings in a lot of leads, and we get a lot of sales from the Facebook ads. From memory, just from a random month, one month we spent 15,000, and the sales, which are specific to the Facebook ads, were 6,000, just over 6,000. So that's pretty typical of my ad spending. But with some professionals in charge, I think that we can do a bit better.
I heard the numbers I heard were spending 15,000 and making 6,000.
Oh, 1,500.
1,500 and making 6,000. So much better. I was like, how is a negative ROI a good thing, Stephanie? Okay, so where are you getting traffic? You're getting traffic from Facebook ads, and where else?
Yeah, and it's we're getting from organic. So we get the traffic from YouTube. We get traffic from Facebook, obviously, not Facebook ads, just organic Facebook. And our blog.
Really?
Because we've got, this is a new thing. So I had all these videos on YouTube. And so I had said to myself I was going to make blog posts out of them all and put them on the website because the content's really good. And I thought I had to do it myself, but eventually somebody had suggested asking a VA to do it. So I got a VA to do it, and I was supposed to check them before they went up, but in the end I said, you know what, just put them up because I don't really want to devote the time at the moment. And those blog posts have done amazing because one of them in particular, when you put rent to rent with a number 2, the first non-ad is a link to this particular blog post, which is about contracts.
Great.
And yeah, so that's how we've been getting traffic.
So jumping back to the numbers we were just talking about, it sounds like you're bringing in between 10 and 20,000 pounds a month. Is that?
Yeah, I would say usually it had been between 15 and 20 mainly, and I think that is still the case, although we have had a blip month. Yeah, but normally it's somewhere there. But we thought that it was going to go down a lot more. But we just had to, keep going, because what we realized was with COVID, okay, a lot of people might not want to move forwards with this sort of thing at this time. But then on the other side, there's a lot of people who will want to move forward. In the UK, we've got this thing called furlough, where the government's paying 80% of people's wages. And so they might be off work, getting 80% of their wages, and actually be looking for things that they've been meaning to do. And this might be a thing, or for some people, this is a thing that they've been meaning to do, that they've been putting off because they didn't have enough time. And now they have the time, so they want to move forward. So
what if I went back to you 4 or 5 years ago when you were working your job, and I said, Stephanie, in about 5 years, you're going to be making about 15,000 pounds a month selling an online course?
Oh my gosh.
What would have been going through your head, and what does that mean to you today?
Oh, wow. I honestly wouldn't have believed you, because I didn't have the self-belief, and I didn't have the, one of the things that you have to do doing an online course, one of the things that feels most special to me is you have to become a leader. But when you become a leader, you also inspire other people to become leaders as well. And, first of all, you're a leader in your own life, and then it ripples out. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the work that we do, that even for people who are not planning to do this particular specific strategy, that they might see me as somebody who previously was not especially successful, and has in a short period of time changed a lot of things, and it gives other people that little spark, maybe I could do that as well. And so that's one of the things I love about what we do now. The other things are that I get to work with my sister, and she's amazing. And so it's a family thing, that when mum wants to at the moment, my mum looks after my gran, who's in her 90s, and they live in Birmingham, which is about 2 hours away. But and obviously my nan is keen to stay where she is. She's part of an active church community, etc. And so, but when my nan is no longer here, then my mum will move to Wales, and we know we can buy her a house, or we can do whatever we want. And my son Alex, he's just buying his own first house, and also we are helping him in lots of different ways. Not he wants to do it himself financially, although we've been able to help him to work with an interior designer. That's something he wouldn't have thought of, to work it to his own budget and all of that. And also we're able to, hopefully, I would love to be able to bring him into the business, to have him have his own rent-to-rent company, where he is in Birmingham, and to become part of the business as well. So yeah, it's totally changed everything.
You said something about how you have to be a leader. You have to be a leader in your niche and to succeed with your course. I know back in 2013 when I got the idea for my piano course, I wasn't a great leader and I wasn't comfortable on camera. I was very reserved. Somebody listening to this, it's like, well, I'm not really a leader, and I'm kind of like Jacques was. That you saying that might not resonate with them. What about somebody who doesn't feel like they're just a natural leader? Can they succeed with this?
Oh yeah, because the beautiful thing about it is that your people love you exactly as you are. So the fact that you're always going on live and then there's some technical mishaps going on, or you've got the camera back to front, or you're stumbling over your words, all of that, all of your imperfections are the things that people love about you, and that over time you grow to love about yourself.
That's well said, because I don't think I'm a good piano teacher for everybody. I certainly get comments from a lot of people saying that I'm not very good, or I'm not a very good piano teacher, or they don't like the way that I teach piano. But obviously I've got a lot of people that do love it. And there's, 7 billion people in the world, right? You just got to kind of carve out your particular niche and find those people that do resonate with the way that you teach and your personality and your quirks. And I think I've done that. It sounds like you've definitely done that as well. And I think that's kind of the message that you're trying to share right now.
Yeah, that's right.
So Nikki Taylor, your sister,
Taylor,
you went into not only the rent to rent course, but you went into the HMO Heaven first business with her as well, right? Why did you decide to go into business with your sister?
Well, it's a bit of a surprise, Jacques, that I'm in business with my sister. My mum was quite worried about it, because she what did she think? She was worried that we wouldn't get on and that it would end in tears, because we loved each other obviously before, but we just used to bicker because she's very pernickety. She always likes everything done a certain way. She's not taking anything for granted. You're giving her the shorthand version, and she wants to know all the details, and is this and that, and what criteria are you basing this on, and all of that malarkey. And so yeah, she was slightly irritating. The other thing that was very irritating about her is that she was nearly always right as well, which is extremely irritating in a sibling. But the thing, when we started working together, obviously we're a bit older, maybe that helps. But now I love all of those qualities about her, and we have found a way to be together. It's just I heard something called, I think it was radical honesty.
Mm-hmm.
But what we found is that when you're with somebody and they say something to you, you don't necessarily just hear what they've said to you. You hear the history of everything that's happened previously as well. And so I like we had one thing, like if I say I don't want to do accounts, or I don't want to find my receipts or something, she hears that as, or she used to hear that as, I don't value what you do and your contribution to the business. And so we had some talks about things like that I don't want to be involved in any of that stuff. So don't ask me. And but I value what you do, and let's find a way to do whatever we need to do that I don't have to be involved and still have a way to show you that I really value what you bring to the business, because at the end of the day, there would be no business if we didn't have all of that behind the scenes working nicely.
Would there be a business without Nikki? Like where would this whole thing be if you never made a decision to go into business together?
Oh yeah, I would still be in business,
Mm-hmm.
but it wouldn't be the same business.
What would be different?
I might have got it together, because I would need somebody to be able to do what Nikki's doing. So I'd need to have known to bring in people. And I did, because of my other sort of hobby business years ago, know that I needed to bring people in for the systems, like we did in the HMO Heaven business. But yeah, it would be different because nobody cares as much as the owners, especially at the beginning. And so it's been great having somebody on the team who is just reconciling the accounts. And sometimes I glimpse the emails that go back and forward between Nikki and the bookkeeper. And I'm glad I'm not involved in it.
How do you think that Nikki would answer that question?
Would there be a business without me?
You? Yep.
No, there wouldn't be a business. She would say that.
But I mean, so are you the kind of the face of the business? You're kind of like the spokesman, the face, and she's kind of the back end systems type person.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I've always worked on my businesses by myself. I mean, I kind of have a team here and there, but I've never really like owned a business with anybody else. And honestly, I can't imagine doing that. Like I can't imagine. Like I love being in charge and then having a team of people to help me out and call the shots. Have you ever, second guessed the way you've set things up? And are there any stories where you guys were just like really butting heads on a decision you had to make?
I can't think of something like that. I think
That's great.
I think the way we were butting heads was because the things that I was saying or doing was giving an impression that I was not wishing to give. So, but now I'm able to know that and make sure that I give the true impression, which is you're very valuable to me, and I couldn't do this without you.
It sounds like the key to success with you guys and your partnership is simply communication and proper communication. Well, I want to talk next about relaunches, because we talked about that first launch, and then we talked about the launch later in Q1 or early Q2. Those were both live launches, and then you set things up evergreen. Have you done any more live launches since then?
You've got to be joking. No, we sometimes do a webinar. We sometimes get invited to do a webinar. But on this spreadsheet, there's a place where it gives the total for the whole lot, I believe. Yeah, I think I've got it. So I don't feel the need to be launching all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to actually put out all the information we put out, attract a load of people, and a small percentage of them will want to work with us, and I prefer for them to get in touch with us rather than the other way around. So my plan is not really to launch, but I would like to have more partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been approached by a number of different companies to partner with us, that they already deliver some sort of networking or training of some sort, and they want to bring us in as the rent-to-rent part.
Great. So kind of a newer traffic strategy for you guys is to do some joint venture stuff. But this evergreen webinar is working for you. What about people that go through your evergreen webinar, but they just aren't ready to buy right then, but a month later, they're like, hey, Stephanie, I'm ready to buy now. How do you handle those people?
Well, we let them back in. We because remember, our webinar is not time-based, it's offer-based. It used to be time-based, so you've got 5 days to join, but now you've got 5 days to join at this price.
Oh, it's not time-based, it's offer-based. So you never say this is the last chance to enroll. You say this is the last chance to get it at this price.
Yeah, we changed it at the beginning of the year.
Oh, okay. Why did you change it? Because of the scenario I just described?
Yeah, and also because people would join because it was their last chance, and then they would be in the group and they'll see somebody else join the day after.
That's a good way to do it. So right now, the full price of your course is what?
Oh, well, this is a bit of we had it at 997, for a long time, and then just before all this malarkey happened, we had decided to put it up to 2,497, but I didn't feel good about that in March. And so what I decided to do was I just redone the webinar with the new pricing. And, I don't like doing webinars, so I did not want to redo it. But I was able to edit some parts of the video to offer the discount back to the old price. And the reason I did that is because selling is a strange thing. And it's really as much about the seller as it is about the buyer. So I have to feel really happy about the price. And so when we had all the beginning of COVID and everything, I didn't feel happy with the price, and also it wasn't really selling. Although it may have done had we just left it at that, or had I had more conviction. But I just decided to just discount it to 997 for the foreseeable until we get through all of this. So I'm selling it at the price that I feel is an amazing value for people and that I really feel comfortable with selling.
£997.
Yeah.
That's the full price, or that's the webinar price?
That's the full price. There's only one. Yeah, there's only one price now. It's 2,497 discounted to 997. Everywhere where people can buy it within the funnel, that is the arrangement, and people can only buy it in the funnel.
They can only buy it in the funnel. See, that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. If somebody is outside of the funnel, how do they buy it?
Well, they just say, "Can I get in your course?" And we say, "Yeah, it's 997."
Okay.
Or we could say, "Yeah, it's 2,497."
Right. So before, you were discounting it like £100, and then you were going to jump into this new pricing model of essentially £2,500, and then COVID hit, and you're like, well, let's go back to 997. So it sounds like it's a little bit in flux still, but that's just kind of where it is right now.
Yeah. So at the moment it's 997, but once things return fully back to normal, we'll put it up a little bit.
By the way, when's that going to happen? When are things turning back to normal?
I don't know. I keep hearing about this new normal, but I don't like it. I don't like the new normal.
Well, normally I like to meet with people in person. Not that we would have done this podcast in person because there's a big ocean in between us, but we work online and we don't have to wear masks, meeting virtually over Zoom here, which is nice. So let's talk a little bit about your webinar, because when I helped you set it up early last year, I instructed you to do EverWebinar. Yes. And as you know, since then, and most podcast listeners will know that I am no longer using EverWebinar for a variety of reasons. It just eventually got to me that it just felt like, to some extent, I was duping people into pretending it was live with the fake chats and all that. And so I know for all of my next level courses students, as soon as I implemented a new system, and not only was it a better experience for the students, for my students, but also that for me, it converted better than EverWebinar. I immediately shared it with you guys. And I think you were one of the first to implement it. And that was several months ago. What do you think of that new system? And are you still using it today?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. We used to get a lot of emails from people saying, "Oh, you didn't answer my question." And people saying, "Is this live?" Even though there's a message across the bottom that says, "This is recorded. Please email if you've got any questions." But obviously, because the comments are popping up as they're watching, that's what drives people to believe and to question it. So we feel it's working, but we don't know. I don't know the numbers on that one, whether it's working better or not. But we're happy with our sales, because I just feel that in these sort of times when you're selling something which is an in-person thing, you just feel blessed to do anything at all, really.
Yeah, I like to treat other people as I would like to be treated. And everybody's different. Everybody wants to be treated a different way, but that's how I do things. And eventually I was just like, man, if I'm attending a webinar like this where there's a fake number of attendees and clearly a fake chat, then that's really going to turn me off to that product. And so the system that we have now is just so much simpler, right? And the people opt in for the webinar, and then immediately the webinar starts playing, right? And so it's great that you still have it set up like that. I don't know if you're on like the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels email list anymore, but they actually have been promoting a brand new webinar, evergreen webinar software lately. Have you seen any of this?
I haven't, no.
It's called Webinar Fuel. And I sat through the presentation just because I like to stay up to date. And they were talking about all these cool new features. And when I implemented the new evergreen webinar system several months ago, the first thing I did was I tried all the softwares. Like there's Stealth Seminar and Click Meeting and all of those, and they just, nothing was as good as EverWebinar, and EverWebinar was awful.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe they figured something out. And there are some cool features in this new one, Webinar Fuel, but most of them like are even more pretending it's live. They even have like a big red flashing live in the top left of the video, even though the software, they don't even do live webinars. It's completely evergreen webinar software. And so it seems like the industry is still going in this direction of pretending it's live. And so I'm glad we were able to switch you over to this newer, to me, more authentic system for evergreen webinars. And even though you don't know the numbers, it seems like it's going well, and you don't have plans to switch off of it anytime soon.
No. Well, we know what the sales are, and as I say, we're really happy with the sales.
You launched a new podcast.
Yes.
You're a podcaster now. Welcome to the club.
I'm a podcaster.
What's the motivation there? Another traffic source to your course, or is it something more than that?
Well, I'm hoping that people are going to fall in love with me on podcasts as well. So I love podcasts. I love listening, and I obviously, you can do it when you're out and about, and you can do it all over the place. And so for a long time, I've been thinking it would be great to have a podcast. And because I'm also writing a book, I have loads of content as well. And so it's kind of easy for me to be able to, have material there for a podcast. And a podcast, I've got this great system as well, Jacques, which is that, so I do the solo episodes on my own, so obviously, but then every other episode I have a rent-to-rent rock stars, where it's somebody who's done really well, and an interview. So
is it normally one of your students or no?
Yes, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
Okay.
But oftentimes, yes. But I try to obviously mix it up and bring different perspectives in. So with the Rent to Rent Rockstars, we go live we use StreamYard. Mm-hmm. Did you introduce me to that?
Probably. I love StreamYard. By the way, today they just announced, and this may mean nothing to you, but they just announced high definition 1080 streaming on StreamYard. I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Well, whatever. As long as they can see me, that's fine. I'm using StreamYard both for the ones where I'm just recording and not going live, but on the interviews, I go live. I go live on the Facebook group. I go live on the Facebook page. I go live on LinkedIn. I go live on YouTube, all at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then my VA takes the recording. She puts the video on Instagram, and then she also puts the audio in the podcast folder ready for the podcast editor. So it's just like, it takes me an hour time, and I've got all of those assets everywhere.
We are recording this right now on Zoom, and we are not live anywhere else. This is not StreamYard or anything. Convince me why I should be streaming this very conversation right now instead of the way I'm doing it.
Right. Well, the reason that I like to do it is because the assets are live when I hang up. So if I wanted to do it the longer way, you could download this video, mm-hmm. upload it onto YouTube's, upload it onto LinkedIn, upload it onto Facebook, upload it onto Instagram. You have to upload it onto Insta anyway. But I prefer not to have any of those tasks to do, not to have to ask my VA to do any of those tasks. It's all already done. And so that's why I like it. And also, the engagement you get when you're live is better. Although that's, in my opinion, is not a reason enough to do it if that's your only reason. But certainly we get more engagement on LinkedIn because, just because of how LinkedIn is, you get more engagement, and there's a bit more engagement perhaps than there would be if we just uploaded it on Facebook.
So the main motivation is just a more streamlined process of getting to all these platforms. A secondary thing is the interaction. Are you actually looking at the comments while you're interacting with the guest at all?
Yeah. So how I do it, I want it to be good for the podcast. What you can do, as you know, within StreamYards, the comments from all of the platforms come up in one place.
Right.
So when the person's making a really good comment and somebody says, "Oh, I so agree," I can say, "Oh yes, so-and-so is just saying she absolutely agrees with that point." Or, "Susie's got a great question. What about such and such? What do you think of that?" Because that works well for the people watching, but it also works well for the people who are going to listen to the podcast later.
Very interesting. I'm always learning things from you as well. So what's the name of the podcast?
It's called the Rent to Rent Success Podcast.
Oh, I love it. Original, like the online course show. Now, Stephanie, is the podcast and just your message in general, is it still just for people in the UK? Or can people in the United States and Australia and other countries get value from, say, your podcast?
Yeah, well, people have been listening from all around the world, and that has been such a joy. I can see them in the Buzzsprout app. And so what I say, if you're listening all around the world and you would like to have a little go, I think if you listen to episode 1, which is called Why, it's a little bit more about us. I think the concept of it is relevant, but if you don't want to get into property using this strategy, you're probably not going to listen to all the descriptive episodes about how to do it. But if you want to go over and say hi and listen to number 1, that would be amazing. And if you would leave me a review while you're there, that would be incredible.
Excellent. I'll make a note to do that myself, at least.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. So the podcast, the online course, the blog, the Facebook, LinkedIn, like all these places, all these things you've got going on. And don't think I'm just going to let you say that you're writing a book and not come back to it. All these things are going on and you're writing a book as well. Why?
Yeah. I think it's partly that I used to love to read as a girl. I was very shy, as I said. I used to love reading. And I don't know that I dreamed about writing a book, but it means a lot to me to write a book. And this is going to be the first book, because this book, it took me so long to decide what kind of book to make it, because I want to make it bigger than Rent to Rent. But then I realized I actually want to have one book that's all about Rent to Rent, and the best way to do it, the way to do it, as you put it, the right way, delivering exceptional value, receiving exceptional results. So that's why I wanted to write the book. I want to put it out there in a format where anybody who wants to work with us, almost free, can do so, and they've got the whole thing all in order with all our best thinking on this in a book format. And then I've got lots of other ideas for books after that.
So I know the answer to this, but you have a course that you're selling for £1,000, probably going to be selling for £2,500 soon, and maybe even more. Why would you write a book when you're selling the content for that much? Why would you write a $10 book?
Yeah, it is a really great question. And but why I want to do it is because it means more to me to have that message out there, and to own this the rent to rent niche, and to really have said everything in the best way, because there are a couple books out on rent to rent. So our aim is to make this the best book. And what the book will do, it's going to give people the 6-step system, the 6-step rent to rent success system. It's going to give them that. So as we said earlier, a small number of the people who hopefully the thousands of people who read the book, a small number of those will actually want to work with us and get all of the other resources and everything that we have and our support to go through it. And so, yeah.
It's like Pat Flynn says a lot, be everywhere. And that's what you're trying to do, right? I'm sure you've heard him say that before.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. But one mistake I see people make is they try to be everywhere all at once, right at first, right? And so I think we have a lot to learn from your story, in that you kind of started on Facebook and you really dialed that in, and then you started a YouTube channel, and then you took that and then you did a blog, and we're over a year into this, and now you're starting a podcast, and then next is the book. You didn't try to do all those things at once. You did one thing, kind of dialed in the process for that thing, and then went to the next one. And I just really admire that process. Now, if I could add to a reason to do the book, and you kind of alluded to this, is that you're hoping that a small percentage of the people that buy and read your book will eventually go to your course. And I don't know if you ever have plans to make an even higher end, like mastermind or something offer than that. But are you familiar with the Russell Brunson's value ladder?
Yeah. Well, you tell us again.
Well, he goes into it quite extensively in his first book, .com Secrets. And it's a way to kind of meet your customers where they are, right? So not everybody that enters your world either has £1,000 to consume your information, or is ready to spend that with you. Some people are, and that's why that product exists. But for a lot of people, a $10 book is going to be a better fit. And it's a way to kind of even reach a new audience.
Yeah.
And then you can funnel the percentage of those people then into $1,000 course or £1,000 course from there. And you just, it's a way to really serve your audience better by having multiple price points of multiple things. Just like with you, I had a $5,800 product. I kind of met you where you were. A $500 course wasn't what you needed back then, but a $5,800 one-on-one mentorship was that. And so I've definitely considered writing a book myself about courses, because it could be a good entry point for people that aren't ready to sign up for a course, but they would be interested on a $10 book. So I love hearing that you're working on that, and I think there's a lot of great reasons to have both a course and a book.
Yeah, it's a great feeling as well. I mean, I just am going to enjoy being an author. I know that sounds a bit shallow, but we recently had pictures made up of the cover to create the webpage, and it just feels so much more real. And already I'm feeling proud of the book that doesn't exist yet. So I need to get on with finish writing it.
How close are you? About halfway done or what?
Yeah, I'm coming up to halfway. I've actually just recently rewritten the program, and so some of the materials from that will go into the book. But I'm about halfway through writing the book. But yeah, I need to just keep head down and get on with it.
And what is your plan to get it out there? Are you going to self-publish it, or do you have a publisher lined up? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I will self-publish with a publisher. They're called hybrid publishers, who give you the service of having a publisher, but obviously you pay for it yourself. Whereas when you're being published traditionally, I believe they pay you.
Amazing. I have a few more topics I'd love to get into with you. You have a few more minutes for me?
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been so great. Diving into this a little deeper, and I'm excited to share this with the audience. Testimonials. I've seen some testimonials of your students lately. How important do you think testimonials are if you're going to have an online course business?
Wow, they're really, really important, because humans, we like to follow what other people have done, what we've seen other people doing, other people who've got results. Like I wanted to follow you because I could see that you had results and that you were on Pat Flynn's, it was the Ask Pat one, and you've been on the Pat Flynn's full Smart Passive Income one as well. So I think testimonials are super, super important. And what I have found, because I was on a call just before here, because I used to do individual calls. If people can buy the course within the program, or they can click to say book a call. And the calls used to be individual calls, but I've now started making them group calls and the rent-to-rent strategy session. So I actually have one at 7 p.m. on a Monday. So I had one just before this.
That's a sales call. That's not something inside your course. That's a sales call, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well,
I've never heard of a group sales call.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I would call it a sales call, but yes. The point is to give people more information, answer their questions so that they can move forwards. But it's the only way that I could sustainably keep going with the calls. So, and two of the ladies this evening were saying, I saw Maria, and Maria inspired me because Maria is a mum of 3. And one of them's a mum of 3, and the other one's got a similar job to what Maria had. So the type of testimonials that I have found really work well is things where you're having conversation, you're finding out the person's story, and people just so resonate with it. And I do myself as well when I go to other people's websites and see that there's a lot of people who've given testimonials.
What I think most people would agree that they're important, and the more testimonies, the better. Where people struggle is how to get them, how to have a system to get them, to not come across super like, I don't know if scammy is the right word, but just like obnoxious by asking for testimonials. What is your process for getting them?
People love telling their story. And if you give it a name, okay. So we have got the rent to rent rock stars. Some people join our course just so that when they get their first deal, they can be part of the rent to rent rock stars. So
giving it a name, I like that. I don't know why I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, you give it a name, and you could. I remember Nate mentioned about having T-shirts. So we don't have T-shirts yet, but that would be a great thing to have as well. That they can be on there with their T-shirt on doing the interview. So give it a name. We also have another. I do a live series, a Facebook Live series, and it's called Property Game Changers, and everyone wants to be on that as well. I've just started another one for our membership club, which is monthly, and I've called it the Legend series. So we've had an investment legend, a sourcing legend, and then we're going to have, so anyone you invite wants to come on because the branding is all legend.
So you have these platforms for people to come on and share your story. You're saying that people enjoy doing that.
Yes.
But are you having to ask them, or are they just knocking on your door to come on?
Oh no, well, when they tell me that they've got their first property, then I say, fantastic, you'll be able to come on Rockstars. And then I have a little process. You don't have to have a VA, but I have a VA. And she knows what to send as the invite for the Rockstars, how to book it in. And there's some artwork that goes with it and so on. And we set up that meeting in StreamYard. It's live going into the group and all the other places it goes. And then after that, it goes on to the podcast.
Amazing. About how many students do you have at this point?
Well, altogether, we've had, I believe it's 250 odd. No, it's 277 people we've had altogether. Our total revenue to date is £267,000 and some.
And just about a year, a little over a year, basically.
Is it a year and a half? 20 months, I think it says here.
Yeah, not a ton of expenses either. Like we're talking, my margins are probably about 50%, but I would say your margins are probably better than that.
Yeah, I would guess so, but not much better. I think we've started looking at the profit every regularly on our weekly meetings. I think we were, when we last looked, we were higher, but we're about 60% at the moment.
Just a couple more questions for you, Stephanie. Let's talk a little bit more about tech. We established that you're not necessarily the tech person, but you figured some things out along the way. What are your top, 3-4 tools that you're using, software and platforms that you're using to execute your online course business?
Yeah. So I have to start this off by saying that what we're using is not necessarily, like I've looked at all of them and thought this is the best. It's just whatever we're using. But one that I really loved that I obviously learned from you was Deadline Funnel. And that is how we're doing our evergreen. So people get that 5-day window to buy at the special price. And that's amazing. And Jack Bourne invited me on his blog to talk about it, which was lovely, lovely, lovely guy.
Yes, he is. Episode 96 of this podcast. I talk about Deadline Funnel and him all the time, as you know, and I remember seeing him promote that interview with you. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah. And so Deadline Funnel, our course is on Thinkific. We use ClickFunnels as well. And I don't know. I love using Loom. You use a different one for screen sharing, a screen recording. I love the StreamYard for all the reasons that I mentioned earlier. It's really good. The recording quality is really great. I get lots of compliments on the audio for my podcast, and I'm just using StreamYard to record it. But I got myself a decent microphone. Not a hugely expensive one. I actually went on Pat Flynn's course.
Yeah, Power Up Podcasting. I did that 2 years ago when I started this podcast. An active campaign for email, I believe.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you brought that up, Jacques, because that was another way, when I reflect on it, that you really that was a game changer. Because I don't think I, with the best will in the world, would have been able to create the automation for the email system. And the email system really is the workhorse of it all. That's what makes it all happen. And you gave your automation, basically.
Yeah, my automation, my emails and everything. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. We worked together for about 8 weeks. Did you have any other mentors or coaches or programs like that along the way that helped you succeed here?
This was the biggest one as far as the what's the thing called? As far as the evergreen funnel is concerned. This working with you was really it. I tried to learn. Oh, tell you who was amazing, the Facebook ads course. Do you know Claire Pelletreau?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you should definitely check her out, Claire Pelletreau. And she has a Facebook ads course. Is it called Facebook Ads Accelerator or something? But it was really, really good. It was like in plain English. I set up my ads and they worked straight away. And using what she explained to me, I could turn off the ones that weren't so good and keep the ones, and really got loads of leads. Because when I very, very first started with the ads, just after I worked with you, and that was the July. And then by September, I'd put everybody through the funnel, and I was only getting 5 new people a day. So that's like 35 new people a week. So I thought, this isn't enough. So I'm now getting more through organic. But anyway, that was at the time. And I immediately put these ads on, and I immediately went the first week of it. And I watched back the Jack Bourne video recently, and I saw that I was talking to him in the first week, and I'd gone from 37 the week before I did the ads to 137 leads in the week after I did the ads. And those ads really converted well for us. So it was good.
So you took the course, you implemented what was in the course, and got results pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Have you ever outsourced the Facebook ads at this point?
I just started.
I think you said that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your process for finding somebody to help you manage that?
Yeah, it's I would have done it ages ago, but I asked, somebody was raving about a Facebook ads person, somebody who I trust. And so I thought, you know what, I'll give it a whirl.
Very cool. Stephanie, before we met, you were listening to this very podcast. And that's one of the things that inspired you to reach out to me. But you know what it's like to be a listener of this podcast and kind of taste success a little bit. If you could kind of speak to yourself when you were first listening to the podcast, right? What would you have wanted to tell yourself now, right? Like think about the average listener of this podcast who is thinking about starting an online course, or they've recently started. You know, they put something together, they launched, they sold 24 copies, they're excited, but it's like, what's next? Like having been successful for the past year and a half now, and you're continuing to get better and better and better. What message would you have wanted to tell yourself back then through a platform like this podcast?
Wow, you got some great questions there, Jacques. I would like to say you have everything that you need within you to be successful. You only have to believe it, because when you believe that you can be successful, it's so much easier to take the steps that you need to take. That's the first and fundamental part. But the second part is to just be curious. It is fun as well, and go out there and find the people who you want to work with, who are going to help you to get to where you want to get to. Obviously, people listening here are lucky because they're already in touch with you, Jacques, and I just really recommend that you join, do the free trainings, join the groups, and then if it's right for you, join the programs that Jacques has created for you. I mean, he's, the results speak for themselves.
Well, once again, thank you so much for the kind words. I'm glad you said, believe you can be successful, because kind of what I alluded to early on in the conversation is I don't know that I've worked with anybody that I got that from as much as I did with working with you. You always believed that you were going to be successful. I mean, we talk about your second launch where you really wanted 100 people. I remember like trying to talk you down off that number because it just didn't seem realistic to me. I'm like, look, let's try to get 5. And you're like, no, Jacques, I want 100. And obviously what happened was somewhere in the middle, you got 30 and you were a little disappointed with that. But you set a huge goal and you missed. But because it was such a big goal, it was still a huge success. Right. And so I'm glad you said, believe you can be successful, because I think that was extremely true in your case. And I think a lot of people listening to this, a lot of people I work with could do that so much better and could like really need to let that message from you resonate and learn from your story and believe in themselves and look at where you want to be. Like, look, where do I want to be in a week? Where do I want to be a month? Put numbers behind it. And maybe put yourself outside your comfort zone with the goals that you set, because if you set bigger goals and miss, well, you're still, it's like in your case, it was far better than 0 or 5 or 10. So awesome. I think people are going to get a lot out of this episode.
Can I add something else?
Please do.
I just want to say, because I realize that this might seem quite, oh, well, this girl, really believes in herself. Well, yeah, I do now. But for the longest time, I just had a bad self-esteem and I didn't believe in myself and I didn't try anything. So if that's where you are, then I think there's the 3 mantras that I really, try to live by, and our community is all based on these mantras, which is believe bigger, be bolder, and be a game changer. And believe bigger is just because it is part of the human condition not to believe, because believing something new and different is dangerous. And so, all of your default settings often go against anything. So believing bigger is a practice where you keep practicing it, you succeed at one thing, then you can believe a little bit bigger. So be bolder is because, again, another human default setting, we have so many of the negative ones, is to hide and not want anyone to see you or notice that you're doing something different, or notice that you're selling something and your auntie might criticize you. So it's just to be bolder and let them see you, let them like it or not like it, and just maintain that you love yourself. So be bolder and be a game changer is the exciting one, because through things like having your own online course and believing in yourself, putting your special knowledge out in the world, you get to be a game changer in your own life. You get to surprise yourself. You get to be a game changer for your family, in your community, and in our world. And there's no greater joy really than that. So I just encourage you, if you are feeling that maybe you're not ready to do this, to just take the very next step that's right in front of you.
That was beautiful. That was and a great way to just wrap this up. Just a really huge inspiration. Thank you again, Stephanie, for coming on. Let's just remind people where they could connect with you or find your stuff. It's rent2rentsuccess.com is kind of the course homepage. There's also hmoheaven.co.uk. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the Rent to Rent Success podcast.
Yes.
Am I missing anything?
No, just if anybody wants to message me and get in touch personally, then I'm at Stephanie T Property on Instagram. But if you go to any of the websites that Shark mentioned, you should see there how to get in touch with us.
Perfect. Stephanie, thank you so much. Pleasure catching up, and let's not wait so long to catch up next time.
Thank you.
Take care.
David, we're back. That was a long one, but a good one. I want to get just like a little more casual with these conversations. Like I told Stephanie going into it before we hit record, like, look, I have my iced coffee sitting here. Like I pretend we're at a coffee shop and we haven't talked in 8 months, which is true. Like tell me I want to hear what's going on and kind of dig into your story deeper and not be like super businessy and all these super prepared questions. And I just had a ton of fun with it. I hope it came across that way to the listeners.
Sure. Yeah. Great energy between the two of you.
She is a character, man. So I said it several times, her drive and her willingness to get around obstacles is what really struck me. And I think some of that is natural for her, but I think that people listening to this can take that away from her story and just keep that in the back of their mind whenever they're plugging forward and they hit a roadblock or they hit something they don't know that they're going to be able to do. To just remember Stephanie Taylor's story and do your very best to get through it. That was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, well, along those lines, my key takeaway I said was that I need to go on some green drink retreats and like fast, because like a couple different times she said like, you know, she had this goal and she just like, I would have liked to know a little bit more about it, but she took off by herself, only drank green juice and like just got a ton of stuff done. And it sounds like when she has something really big she wants to accomplish, that's a formula that works. It made me think back to episode 118 that we did together was Make Time. Mm-hmm. And the authors of Make Time wrote another book called Sprint, which is just this formula for technology companies to accomplish a huge goal. But kind of the same thing as it sounds like her green juice fast is like just really just hammer a project out.
Yeah, so. And I don't know that she was doing any of those retreats or fasts or whatever while we were working together. But even without that, she would just put her head down. And Nikki as well, her sister Nikki, they were just such a great team. Every time I would meet, it would be both of them, and they're so different, but they work so well together. And they would be like, all right, Nikki, you do this, and this. I'm going to do this, and this. We're going to get back together. And every time we'd meet again, they would have it done and more. And I told her that several times when we were working together. It's like, look, you're doing everything I'm asking you to do, and I really appreciate that. And because of that, you're going to get results. Mm-hmm. And so that was really cool. And there's an acronym, BHAG. I think I've heard Dave Ramsey talk about it. Big, hairy, audacious goals, right? And that's something that she does. She sets these big, hairy, audacious goals. And like I told her during the conversation, if you do that and you hit the goals, amazing, wow. And that's kind of what she's done now with a 15,000-20,000 pound per month course. But sometimes you make these BHAGs and you don't quite hit it, but if you miss a little bit, then you're still making great progress. Like with that launch where she wanted to do 100 sales and got 30.
Exactly. Yeah, there's that cheesy little quote: "If you shoot for the moon and miss, you still land among the stars." So
That's cheesy.
that's
Yeah, no, but it's, I mean,
it's
that's
like
exactly,
a dad quote.
yeah, no, totally.
for you.
It's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a little cheesy on the cheesy side, but it's exactly what I'm talking about. Man, I'm sure you got a list over there. What else you thinking from this episode?
Oh man, when you read her application, I could I wasn't watching the video at that point, but I could just hear her blushing through the audio. But that part had me just laughing out loud about where she said, well, it was so funny because she said that people approach her and they're like, they act like they're talking to a star, like they know her and just feel like she's their best friend. And she said that she feels the same way about you. And yeah, I mean, podcast is just such an intimate medium. You do really feel like you're catching up with a good friend. And so I could relate to what she was saying, but it also had me just laughing out loud.
Yeah, I get messages from people all the time. It's like, hey, Jacques, I've been listening to the podcast for a while. Really feel like I know you've gotten so much value from you, and it's so weird for me because I'm just now meeting this person, and they seem to know me so well because I have this podcast platform, but yet I don't know them very well. And we can definitely talk about the reverse scenario of the podcast that I listen to. I listened to Smart Passive Income for years. Now I actually know Pat Flynn, but I know so much more about him than he does about me. But with Stephanie, her original platform was not podcast like this. She's got one now, but she just started putting all that valuable content out on Facebook, and people would consume it. People would consume it that she didn't know, and she didn't know all the people that were consuming her content, but she was building up a lot of goodwill and trust and genuinely helping people. And so but by the time they'd reach out to her and share with her the impact that she was having, it's I can definitely relate to that. It's one of the main reasons that I do stuff like this, both on the piano side and on the online course side. But yeah, the reading the application, I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't tell her I was going to do that. In fact, I kind of got the idea to do that while we were talking. I was like, oh, this would probably be fun. And she doesn't strike me as the type of person that gets embarrassed super easily. Like, she'll kind of act that way, but I don't know that she really does. And we talked before we recorded that she was pretty much an open book. There wasn't really anything she wanted to stay away from. So I went for it, and I do think it added something to the conversation, and hearing her reaction was really funny.
Definitely. Along the lines of you being on the interview with Pat Flynn, one thing as I listened to both the Choose FI and the Pat Flynn interview, the question or kind of the story that I felt was missing was you sharing one of your students' success stories, and really kind of taking credit for especially on Choose FI, sharing Nate's story about how you mentored this guy, took his course to the next level, and now he's helping all these people have a lucrative side hustle. And so that was really cool. And as you get back into the interviews, I guess with these course creators, I would ask you to ask them hey, are you able to share a favorite success story of one of your students? That's something that I think that we could hear some great stories from that. And it just, it lets the course creator just share the real meaning behind what they're doing when they get to share one of their students' successes. So I would love to hear that in these upcoming interviews.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up, because as you know, lately I've been saying a lot, student success is probably the number one success factor of an online course business, right? I value my student success in piano and this side very highly. And on the piano side, I have over 500 testimonials. It's my testimonial process is very important to me, and making sure my customers are happy and learning and getting results, actually taking the course and all that. And so you're almost calling me out. I did those 2 big interviews, and I talked about me and my story a lot. And Story Brand by Donald Miller talks about how you're not the hero of the story, you're the guide. And that's how I feel. I feel like I want to be the guide for people that I know I can help. And the people that I know I can help are people that have always struggled with learning piano, or who are who are struggling with online courses in some way or another. I know those are the two areas that I can help people. And so I should have shared more stories like Nate's story or Stephanie's story or
Exactly.
People like that. I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm going to also keep that in mind in future conversations with podcast guests, because people I'm having on are impacting other people as well. And it's like, hey, I should have been like, Stephanie, like you have 270 whatever students. You've got all these platforms for them to come on and share their story. Like, what's one story you could tell us about somebody who was really impacted by your message and your course? And I dropped the ball on that one, man, but gotta continue to up level like we talked about before, and I'm making notes here, and I'll try to bring that up more, because I think it's very important.
It's all right. I forgive you.
That's why I keep you around, man. You're just so nice to me. So let's see. And speaking of the testimonials and all that, giving it a name, how brilliant was that? Like the rent-to-rent rock stars, like that's brilliant. And I've been a part of multiple communities of courses that their big thing was ring the bell. You make your first sale, you do this, you accomplish a certain goal. It's like ring the bell, and people would post gifts and images like ring the bell, I made my first sale, or other things. And so I don't really have much like that in any of my programs or courses. And I think something tangible like that, where it's like I can ring a virtual bell, or I can be a rock star of some sort. I think that's super powerful.
Well, I'm going to harp on it again, but I think it should be the first time they perform for somebody else. And then if they want to record it, like, oh man, still encourage you to get people motivated to perform for other people. I think that's if you get some of those videos coming in, those could be hugely powerful.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video fairly recently of somebody they posted in the Facebook group, and it's a video of her playing the piano, and she's doing an amazing job, and the camera is kind of slowly sneaking up on her, and she put in the post that her husband recorded her without her even knowing. But it turned out really well, because she wasn't nervous, because she didn't know she was on camera, so she did a great job with it, and therefore wasn't afraid to post it in the Facebook group. But man, I'm taking so many notes from this conversation with you, just ideas, and I appreciate it very much. Let's see, what else on your side from this conversation?
Well, I mean, I just got to call out this conversation highlights the value that people that want to get coached or mentored by you or take your course right now, just the incredible value. So again, I mean, Stephanie paid $5,800 for this coaching. She had a one-on-one component that was higher, but essentially a person can join next level courses right now for either just simply signing up for a ClickFunnels membership through your affiliate link, or is it $67 or $69?
That's what it is right this moment. Is you have two options. You can sign up for ClickFunnels through my link, and you get free access to next level courses. Or if you already have ClickFunnels, or you don't want to have ClickFunnels, which more people are taking this second option than I ever realized. I really wanted people to do the ClickFunnels option because I just felt like that would be a really big win-win for people to actually have some software that hopefully they'll use, and I can share templates and so on, and then not have to pay anything extra for mentorship and coaching. But yeah, right now it's $67 a month if you don't want to do that and you just want to pay money, and several people have gone down that path. But I'm definitely going to increase that, and the free ClickFunnels route is probably going to go away eventually because I am giving a lot of value in that group. So I just wanted to kind of restart it with a bang, and it has been. It's been so much fun. Everybody in there has a course already, looking to get better, and I'm able to. There are moments where we have kind of one-on-one, the group coaching sessions. I'll bring on one person at a time, and we'll work through it together. And it's been a lot of fun, and people are interacting with each other as well. So yeah, just go to theonlinecourseguy.com, go to programs at the top, and then click on next level courses. You'll see more details there. But that's the two ways to get in. But I promise that it's going to be more expensive down the road.
Yeah, and personally, again, my backstory, I signed up for your course on how to make a course. I paid $697. After that, it went up to $997, and you had people paying those amounts to take your course on how to make a course. And currently, people can buy the book Expert Secrets and get the newer version of that course. So yeah, just, I mean, it's super cool, win-win, and very valuable offers to get people to reach their goals.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, David. Okay, what else? Anything on your list?
You had a discussion about the value ladder, and you said that you were thinking about writing a book. And previously, you've talked about hating writing. So, what's the story there? Are we going to see a book by Jacques Hopkins?
Oh, it's possible. I think I kind of have a book already, right? It's my Piano in 21 Days workbook. It's almost 100 pages long. There's a lot of words in there, but that has evolved through the years. I've definitely gotten some help from Emily on that, who's a fantastic writer. And I've even put that book in the hands of my sister, who's has a graduate degree in English, and a good friend of mine who also has a graduate degree in English. And I've a lot of people who are far better at writing than me have helped me craft what that book is today. But as you know, I've been driving a lot on that road trip, and I just think about all kinds of stuff. And, this concept of the value ladder, a book is a great thing to have at the bottom. A book is a great thing to have at the bottom. A course is a great thing to have in the middle. And then some sort of mastermind and coaching is a great thing to have more toward the top. And so I just feel like right now I'm asking people to buy Expert Secrets to enter my beginner course. And I'm sending traffic to somebody else and then back to me. It's like, well, I could, they could just buy my book instead at the bottom end. And so that's just kind of a thought going through my head. I'm not the type of person that's just going to sit down and write for 10 hours, but I could totally see myself just like recording a bunch of audio, sending that to Emily or somebody else, and getting those, not necessarily transcribed, but getting those ideas down on paper in a good, book format, or good words formatted for a book. So by no means am I announcing an online courses book, but it's just an idea that I'm thinking about, and I was thinking about it through the lens of the value ladder.
Yeah, I like that. I could see where you could do that pretty easily, and it sounds like, Emily's just an amazing writer. So yeah, kind of co-writing it with her, and you already have the outline in general, so.
Yeah, totally. It would. Yeah, I know what the synopsis and thesis of the book would be, and I've got a lot on my mind right now, and I'm trying to get better at prioritizing projects, and that's certainly not a top one right now, but it could be down the road. And yeah, I'm so thankful to have Emily every day. It's just one of her many strengths is writing. And I've got my SEO guy, and originally his original scope like years ago was to do a lot of the content writing, and we've transitioned to where he's more focused on analytics and putting plans together and ideas, and then myself and Emily will handle the content and writing. And I said myself and Emily, it's mostly her. And I remember maybe 8 months ago we did a batch of like 5 or 6 blog posts. And you remember my SEO guy, Caleb, this is what he does. Like he's got content writers, and content writing is a big part of SEO. And he was like, man, these are the best articles that I've ever seen.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so, yes, shout out to Emily, who is probably listening to this because she does the show notes for this show. So, awesome stuff. What else?
Oh, not too much. Yeah, it was interesting. I have an older brother and a younger sister. So as she was talking about working with her sister, I was like, oh man, yeah, that wouldn't go well. I don't know.
No.
What would happen if you tried to team up and partner with your siblings? Could you make it work, or would there be some battles?
Man, I think we could make it work. And one of my sisters, I've talked about this before, is an amazing artist, the one who has a graduate degree in English. She's now a full-time artist. By the way, that's Denise Hopkins, fineart.com. Shout out to her. Go check out her painting. She's amazing. And I really want her to put a course together of some sort. So we could work together in that capacity. But I just, not only can I not imagine like owning a company with a sibling, I just, like I said, told Stephanie, I just like when I have a business, like I want to own 100%, and the successes are at the end of the day, you know, come back to me because I'm fully in charge, but so do the failures too. And all of that falls back on me at the end of the day, and there's no blaming anybody else. And so that's just what has worked best for me. I don't know that I could do that, man.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
But that's great that they've made it work. And we've had a lot of people on the podcast where I don't know if they would have had success without having some sort of partnership, whether it's a sibling or a spouse or just a business partner. There's been plenty of those as well. And you just have to find what model is going to work best for you.
Exactly.
So we talked about next level courses. TheOnlineCourseGuy.com, click on next level courses. I also want to give another shout out to Deadline Funnel because we mentioned that several times throughout here. And we have a special deal just for this audience. It's a double free trial. The normal, if you just go to deadlinefunnel.com, you can sign up for a 14-day trial, free trial. Or if you go through this link, then you can get a 28-day free trial. That's something very generous that Jack Bourne, the creator over there, set up for me and for the listeners of this podcast. So that is deadlinefunnel.com/OCG for Online Course Guy, deadlinefunnel.com/OCG. So if you're going to sign up for Deadline Funnel, you might as well get a double free trial out of it. I think we may be coming to the end of this episode. This is probably going to be one of the longest, if not longest, in the history of the podcast.
Oh, it's got to be. But the best one yet, right?
Always trying to do the best one next, for sure. Hopefully we can even do better next week. So just a quick reminder that this is this week on the podcast feed is going to be a little different. We'll have this full episode on a Tuesday, and then stay tuned because I'm going to be cutting out clips from this and posting them throughout the week. And like I said earlier, please give me feedback in the Facebook group. Search up the Online Course Community on Facebook. A lot of people listening to this podcast are hanging out there, or you can send me an email. And so on. I'd love to hear back from listeners on the new format and if you like it or hate it. So with that, I think that's going to do it for this episode. You can find those show notes written by Emily by going to theonlinecourseguy.com/144. And once again, check out Next Level Courses, or if you're a complete beginner, the program for you is the Online Course Accelerator. That's going to do it for this week. Thanks again, and we'll talk next week.